Well, yesterday, a group of 7 House Republicans claimed that there is a war at our southern border and that the drug cartels and traffickers are winning the fight. And there's proof that they're right. All across the country, in Seattle, fentanyl-related deaths are so high that morgues are struggling to find space to store bodies from fentanyl deaths. And the King County Public Health Director says that he expects the city's final 2022 fentanyl death toll to double from what it was the last 3 years. Meanwhile, according to the CDC data, West Virginia is one of the states leading the country in fentanyl overdose deaths. And West Virginia's Attorney General Patrick Morrisey last month brought together families in his state who had lost loved ones due to fentanyl to help educate them and raise awareness on the dangers of the drug. And he joins us now. Attorney General Morrisey, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here with us. Such an important topic. You've been raising your voice on this for quite a while. We had the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas finally speak up and say this is what they are doing to combat the flow of fentanyl. Listen.
We have been acting with tremendous urgency, certainly since I took office. We have seized over 1.6 million pounds of precursor chemicals, the chemicals that are used to manufacture fentanyl. The seizures of actually the fentanyl that has been produced has increased exponentially during the last 2 years. We have an across the board, full press, doubling down effort on this very dangerous drug.
Okay, so you actually filed a lawsuit against the Department of Homeland Security for the lack of action. Are you satisfied with what you've seen recently from Secretary Mayorkas?
No, Secretary Mayorkas needs to be fired immediately or impeached. He is probably the most disastrous public official that the Biden administration could put in, and that says a lot. We've been pressing him for now the last couple of years to get his act together because we have seen such a dramatic increase in the total amount of fentanyl that originates in China, gets shipped to the Mexican drug cartels, makes its way in through the border up into the heartland. And every effort we've tried to put in order to increase prosecutions, increase the focus of fentanyl at the border has been rebuffed by this Biden administration. So they need to look in the mirror and they need to get their act together because people are dying at an alarming rate. That's why my colleagues and I have been pushing to classify fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. It's why we've called for increased prosecutions by the Department of Justice. It's why we're pushing Tony Blinken to engage the Chinese and the Mexican government to make sure that they're clamping down on what the cartels are doing. But Lindsay, I want to also draw attention to what you said at the outset, and I'm so grateful to you for focusing on this. A few months ago, we were able to get a lot of the families who had victims of fentanyl here in West Virginia. 8 families came together. They were able to tell their story. This is hurting and slaughtering people in the heartlands, and it's going after our youth at a rate that no other disease or accident can possibly compare to. So I am hopeful that we'll begin to get more attention on this, more action by the Biden administration. I'm certainly going to keep doing my part to push back here in West Virginia.
Absolutely. I mean, you talk about it killing our youth. You're seeing little babies now actually dying from fentanyl. And it's the largest killer of 18 to 45-year-olds, as you know. You talked about asking President Biden to classify fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. You actually and 17 other attorneys general actually sent a letter to him back in the fall asking him to do this. And we had Lauren Boebert, who actually put in a bill to request this. Did you ever hear back from the administration on this? Any kind of comment on what they're doing?
No. In fact, we have very little engagement from them. I think that the Biden administration has almost instructed their secretaries and their agency heads to minimize interaction with the Republican attorneys general because, look, they're worried about getting sued. Well, they should be worried about getting sued because they're not doing their job. But I will tell you, back with the Trump administration, we used to work collaboratively. Democrat AGs, Republican AGs would still work. When it comes to law enforcement, you have to put partisanship aside. And we're not seeing that with this administration. They're politicizing the fentanyl epidemic, and people are paying a very heavy price from it. So we haven't heard back. We need to get their engagement, and we need much better action right away. Mayorkas can stand back and say he's doing a lot of work, but the reality is he's failing the American people and he needs to be replaced.
You know, it's interesting as we see states like California and Washington see this rise in deaths. More people are speaking up, and it is hopefully becoming a more bipartisan issue. So glad to have you here. We're going to have you back. We're out of time, unfortunately, to continue to talk about this topic as it's sweeping our country. Good to see you, Attorney General.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. Appreciate it.